What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the J Area Podcast. My name is Jose Ramos Jr., and this is part 2 of our lengthy interview with Daniel Hanson, one of my good friends, as we share our opinions and thoughts on the world of the NBA and the NFL. So anything sports related that you guys imagine, we're talking about it here on the podcast. And without further ado, let's dive in to part 2 of my interview with Daniel.
That doesn't endear me to the city of New York. It's very ignorant.
No, and I'm glad you said that, because why would I want to broadcast that towards the whole world? Because now, and you can just speak for Tiki Barber. I don't have to talk about the other alumni of the Giants, but you're coming off as bitter. And if I'm looking to sign with another team, I'm going to look at things like that. Like, oh, this is how your alumni talk about the players. If I were to step out of line, that's how quick it turns. Like, no, it's not productive. It's counterproductive. I'm trying to welcome teams or welcome players to my team to build the best team possible. But the moment someone steps away and kind of wants to think about themselves for a second, you're dead to me. It's like Tiki Barber, who was talking about you 2 weeks ago. Like with all respect,
he's not even the best barber. He's not even the best brother.
Exactly, Rondé Barber. Like, I just, with all respect to him, because he was in the NFL, like, I'll give him his credit. But, like, realistically, who was talking about him 2 weeks ago? Nobody.
No one.
Nobody. It's all that clickbait, bro. That's all it is.
And it honestly reminds me, and I know this is a little off topic, but we talk about guys who keep who are trying to make media headlines. I look at a guy like Isaiah Thomas that I have a lot of respect for. Isaiah Thomas, to me, regardless of Curry, being as great as he is, to me, I look at Isaiah Thomas as the mold of the new era point guard. Because if you look at Magic was a pass-first guard. Isaiah Thomas was the first scoring guard that could do it all that we've seen. He could shoot, he could drive, he played great defense, and he could pass, and he had the best legal ball handling before people started caring, right? As we know, Isaiah Thomas has a rocky relationship with Michael Jordan. That's normal. That's fine. And if somebody is asking him a question about it, I expect him to answer. And do I personally feel that Jordan has taken it too far? Yes. I do, as we can recall, as Isaiah Thomas pointed out in the Last Dance documentary, the Celtics have walked off the court before too. No one said anything. I don't believe that was super disrespectful. I feel it was a poor sportsmanship as far as like being a sore loser. But who wants to be all up in the other person's face after they just lost the biggest game of their life? It's understandable to be that upset. And it wasn't like Isaiah Thomas was a dirty player either. Let's not confuse him with the rest of the bad boys, because it was really just the enforcers that was doing the fouling. But Isaiah Thomas always finds himself talking about Michael Jordan. And I'm like, dude, let's just leave it alone. Let's talk about something else, man. Can we talk about, the game you played on your broken leg? I feel like it's these cats trying to make headlines, man.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Isaiah Thomas constantly in turmoil with Michael Jordan? And I've never heard Michael Jordan publicly say anything since The Last Dance.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. And I feel like I've always looked at the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you can tell it clearly bothers Isaiah Thomas about all that bitter rivalry with Michael Jordan. But again, it goes back to how Tiki Barber came off. You come off as bitter. Like, even if you don't agree with what's going on, you're kind of lowering yourself. Because if I'm Michael Jordan, this is old news. This is beneath me. That's why he don't talk about it. The only time he mentioned it, like you mentioned, was in The Last Dance. But Isaiah Thomas can't let it go. And I do think Isaiah Thomas is one of the greatest point guards of all time. I have him in my top 5.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where it's like, you got to let it go. I know obviously it's a big part of the lore between the bad boy Pistons and Michael Jordan, but let's single that out and talk about Isaiah Thomas. Like you mentioned, he played practically with one leg against the Lakers in the finals. Let's highlight that. Yeah. Why do we got to revert to old news? Why do we got to revert to this bitterness just between us? Why can't we just celebrate legends for being legends? Instead, we're still talking about a rivalry that stems back almost 40 years. And you see the clip on the internet all the time where Isaiah Thomas was talking about the selection for the dream team
Yeah,
and how he met the criteria. There's no doubt about it, but there's nothing we can do about it now.
yeah,
So I
definitely.
I still
I
love
mean, and
Isaiah
that's
Thomas.
unfortunate that that happened because let's be real, there was no better point. Even at that time, Magic Johnson being in the league, he wasn't better than Isaiah Thomas at
No.
that time. It's the tail end of his career. And I mean, they did Isaiah Thomas dirty.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like you said, move forward. There's nothing you could do about it. And honestly, I mean, you got to take that as part of your legacy is you were so good that they like purposely snubbed you because they didn't get along with you or
Yeah.
they didn't like the way that you approached the game. And that's a testament. Sometimes people say that if people aren't hating, you're not doing something right. So it was obviously he was doing something right if they snubbed him.
Yeah. No, and it's
I think his game speaks for itself.
I agree. And I feel like it's all narrative at that point. You can flip the narrative. It can be the same story, but how you look at it from your perspective can dictate your whole legacy. It can dictate your mood. Because, like you said, they saw him as a threat. That's why they didn't want him. You know what I mean? They didn't want him on the team. For them to
Yeah.
single me out, I'm thinking, all right. Like you said, obviously I'm doing something right. But ultimately, it was all like PR. They wanted the big names. That's why they got Magic Johnson coming out. That's why they had Larry Bird coming out with like no back. Like realistically, who if I'm on the other teams, I'm not really worried about Larry Bird. Obviously off a name value and legacy, like oh my
Yeah.
god, absolutely, he can trash talk like no one else. But who the hell was Larry Bird gonna body in '92?
Yeah. He got freaking sciatica and back arthritis, and he's on the dream team. Dude is 47.
Dude,
Him and Magic Johnson both overweight and out of shape. Like, bruh,
and that's not to
crazy.
take away from their greatness, but it's just given that context in the dream team. I don't feel like a lot of people talk about that, about like how they had to wheel out Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Do you think up until that point, like, and this is, obviously before both of us were born, but do you think Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were the face of the NBA before Jordan? And even honestly, during Jordan's reign, like, I feel like at some point, obviously, Jordan became the face of the league. But during the Dream Team, who do you think was the face of the league?
At that time, it was Jordan. At that time, it was Jordan.
Really?
I think so, but I think there's been this narrative that Larry Bird and Magic saved the NBA. Have you heard that? You're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with that.
I think that's accurate though, because if you look at the early '70s to like basically the '70s, it was sporadic. It's very rare for a casual fan to name the champions that had won in the '70s. I know, yeah, off the top of my head, I know that the Knicks won it. I know that the Bucks were there. The Lakers had won in '72. But it wasn't until the '80s when Magic and Bird came to the league, and that rivalry that stemmed from college stemmed to the NBA, and it was that must-see TV where you saw two contrasting play styles as well as two different portrayals of what the face of the NBA should be. So you had that rivalry going on. Then you have the uprise of a Michael Jordan who encompassed it all. I mean, you're talking athletics, you're talking the physicality, the finesse, defensively. I think once we got to Michael Jordan, that was the peak. Magic and Larry, they helped get us to the dance. But Michael Jordan was that main event that we stayed for. And that's why I think he was the main key of that dream team. That's why it was either, he said it himself, it was either him or Isaiah. And if I'm that committee, it's a no-brainer. I'm picking Michael Jordan.
So you don't believe they would have won without Michael Jordan? I still think they
No,
sweep
I
easy.
no,
I
I
mean, they
think
still got.
I think they win. But the question was who was the face?
Yeah, and that's true. And I would agree with that sentiment that he is the face of the league. But I believe if we're going off of A-list names, right, at that time, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, best rivalry of all time. You've got LA people on the West Coast, mainly black people, Lakers fans, and you got Celtics, white fans, East Coast, Boston, whether you're New Jersey, just East Coast, like in general. Like, I feel that to me held much more weight than to what Jordan had did at that time, because he had only what, 2 rings, 3 rings at that time.
Yeah, he had just won his second.
So I mean, 2 rings in, that's nothing to sneeze at. But 2 rings doesn't make him the greatest player of all time. 2 rings doesn't make him the best shooting guard of all time. So I mean, with 2 rings, he doesn't have much to offer as far as like weight in his name. I do feel Magic and Larry Bird were still the face of the league, which is why they had to lead that team, because that's what the guys look to, that's what fans look to. At that time, I do like, were they in their primes? No. Were they the best player in the league? Hell no. But they were definitely, to me, I think they were the face of the league, and I think Jordan shortly became that after. Um, but I just believe that Magic and Larry Bird were the face of the leagues during the Dream Team. Me personally.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean, that's something that we can agree to disagree on, because I look at it, if you want to say the face of the sport, I can give you that. But Magic Johnson was already out, obviously due to the HIV and AIDS. Larry Bird was out with his back. So they weren't consistently in the NBA playing. Who was left? It was Michael Jordan. And I think I do understand the sentiment of like they were the faces of the sport. That I'll 100% concede to you. And you can argue that Michael Jordan didn't assume that mantle until maybe the 93 finals when they dispatched Barkley and the Suns. I can concede to that, no problem.
But I mean, what is the difference between face of basketball and the face of the league? Like, give me your differences. And how would that translate to like another sport? Like, who would be the face of football and who would be the face of the league? So I mean, well, I guess we'd have to be specifically talking about a certain time period.
I can give you that.
Like,
I can give you that. No, I can give you that. So with the face of the sport versus the league, the face of the sport is someone that we can associate with the sport itself, versus the face of the league is present time. I think the most recent example of that, we saw Tom Brady play against Patrick Mahomes. You can say Tom Brady was the face of the league, like, or excuse me, the face of the sport, because it's Tom Brady. There's the name value. He's a winner. He's been there. He has the experience. But at that time, when they had faced in the Super Bowl, you could argue that Mahomes, he already won the Super Bowl by then. He had already won an MVP by then. You could argue that Mahomes was already the face of the NFL, or at least they promoted him as such. Now I won't go on the record and say, oh yeah, he was the face. No, but that's what people would argue. You know, that he was the face of the NFL at that point, a rising, emerging star, versus an already set and established star in Tom Brady, who again was the known. He was the brand. We know Tom Brady. You talk to someone who doesn't watch football as religiously as some of us, they know who Tom Brady is. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus again.
With that being said, though,
yeah,
if Tom Brady is the face of the sport, where does that leave Jerry Rice and Joe Montana? Are they just like supporting cast members? Are they on the Mount Rushmore?
In terms of face of the NFL?
Yeah.
They're on the Mount Rushmore. But I do think in terms of face of the league, face of the sport, I should say, it's all about, you know, the timing. Tom Brady is a name that we can associate because of the longevity. He played for 20 plus years. So this generation and the generation before it can associate. But you look at a guy like Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, it's been quite some time, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like, relatively speaking, it's easier to say a Tom Brady. Me personally, we've had this conversation. I've already given that conversation of GOAT to Brady. If someone were to argue Jerry Rice with me, I am more than okay accepting that as an answer. But for me personally, I do give it to a Brady.
Well, and I feel like Brady had an easier position to play as far as demands on the body.
Sure.
Jerry Rice had a lengthy career on one of the most brutal and punishment. I don't know how I would word that, but most punishing position. I mean, you're getting hit They're throwing to the middle. This is before all these rules where you can't lead with your head down and all this stuff. So, I mean, Jerry Rice was playing in a physical era and a more advancedly skilled era towards the tail end of his career. So, I mean, he played in different eras and was successful in them all. And dude was goddamn 40 years old. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I think Jerry Rice is the face of football. Even though I wouldn't say he's more marketable than Tom Brady. He's definitely the face. Like he's the guy. He's the dude that people respect in the league. Like players, favorite player is going to be Jerry Rice.
Yeah. No, and I can respect that. But at the same time, it's always the go-to answer. You play in the area. You play in the era that you play in. Because you could easily
Mm.
argue when people talk about the NBA, why is Bill Russell not the GOAT? Or why is Kareem not the GOAT?
Yeah.
You know?
So who would you say is the face of the goat for the face of the league today, the face of the sport today, like for basketball?
That's a really good point. Like I've thought about this on like separate occasions because there's a lot of parity right now in the NBA. You have like stars galore everywhere. And for some reason I kind of revert back to LeBron, which is like it defeats the purpose of the conversation of face of the league
Yeah,
versus face of the sport. But because I don't think we have that set guy yet. There was a time being where we thought it was going to be Luca, but it's like
yeah.
I can't give it to him. I can't anoint him yet. I don't see on the Thunder and the Timberwolves because those are the two top teams in the West. I don't see Ant Edwards or Shea Gildress there. Maybe not yet, but in that moment, I can't anoint them. I can't say the same thing about a Steph Curry, a Jason Tatum. It's not set in stone yet. So for that reason, I,
Well,
I kind of concede to like a LeBron still being the face.
and I think Curry was the face of the league. I mean, from 2000 and what 14 to 2020, maybe
He had a short run.
2019,
Yeah,
he
no,
was definitely the face of the league, in my opinion. I think LeBron was the face of the sport at that time. But he was like Curry invented a whole new style of play, or definitely refurbished the 3-point shot. And I don't believe he's the face of the league right now as far as popularity because now everyone is shooting threes. So he's not necessarily doing anything that's out of the ordinary. But he is one of the greatest influences the game has ever seen. And like you said, these guys aren't established enough. You got guys like Jason Tatum. Well, I can't anoint him that face of the league until he wins something, until he shows me that he's a true competitor. I don't want to see screenshots of him texting Kobe, because he's letting me down. He's letting Kobe down. He's letting his team down.
yeah, no. And then it brings it full circle. Whereas you look at like a Giannis or even like a Jokic, who have won MVPs and they've won a championship, but we can't put them there yet. Just the same way we talked about Jordan, who came off of his second ring and he had already won MVPs by then. It's not. It's not
Yeah.
there yet. Can they have that shot? Absolutely, but I don't think it's time just quite yet.
Okay. Little off topic. Well, not off topic, but the random question. 2010. Who's the face of the league and who's the face of the sport? 2009, 2010.
I think it's the
Oh,
same.
this is a tough one.
I think it's the same answer though. You got to say
You're gonna say Kobe and
I'm
Curry? I mean, Kobe and
no,
Curry,
no, no.
LeBron and Curry.
No, I would say Kobe for both.
Mm.
I would say Kobe for both because up until that point, LeBron was still emerging. He like realistically, what did he do? He had just won an MVP award. Or no, he had won two by then, excuse me. He had won two with the Cavs by then. But aside from that, what? We're going to count losses in the finals as an accomplishment? Like yeah, he got there. But look, but Kobe
Yeah.
was like he was the set guy. He was established. We knew him as a winner. And literally that season that you just named, they won the championship.
Yeah.
So
And
it's,
I believe Kobe was the face of the sport, but was he the face of the league? Because, I mean, yeah, KD, man. Yeah, I remember KD being a sensation when he came into the league at the Thunder. When
yeah,
when KD used to be dunking on niggas, bro,
yeah,
man, like, what a time to be alive. Like, we don't really see him be a slasher much anymore because of injuries and of age and his play style developing. But he used to be dunking on people, like he used to take it to the hole. He could any way you wanted it, pause, he could do it to you. So I mean, I think KD was especially this was the era when we're starting to see bigs and forwards that can play like guards. And I know that term gets thrown around loosely. Like, I remember there was a time Carl Anthony Towns, people were like, oh, he shoots like a guard. Now we know what an actual big shoots like, as like
Yeah.
a guard. If, like, we see Wembanyama, that's truly a big that shoots like a guard.
Yeah. No,
But
but okay.
I'm going to go with KD being the face of the league at that time.
I love this take because I can bring it into modern times. What's the difference between? And I'm not going to compare their play style or like significance, but I'm just going off of their body of work. What's the difference between that and like a guy like Anthony Edwards right now? Because you look at it, at that time in 2010, Kevin Durant had been in the league, what, 3 years?
Yes, not drafted 2007. Yeah,
Anthony Edwards was drafted in, what, 2020? So at least
something like that.
at
Yeah,
least 3 years. Two dynamic players that are taking the league by storm. They're dunking on guys. They're demonstrating how they have that high potential. But again,
yeah,
what have they done? Neither of them.
and that's true.
At that point, neither of them have MVP awards. Neither of them have big playoff runs that led to the finals appearance. Just an appearance. I'll say just the finals appearance, or conference appearance. I'll even lower it down. So if you want to say Kevin Durant, I feel like it's not too far off to say the similar thing about Anthony Edwards.
That is true, and I'm not gonna argue with you about the accolades. They got the same exact accolades at that point in time in their career. However, there is an exception to the rule when you're, an influencing player. When you're a guy like Curry, Curry became the face of the league. I'll never forget when I started seeing that nigga on Cartoon Network commercials. I was like, bro, who is this like fucking baby looking nigga? And then he sounds like a grown ass man. I was like, damn, this is crazy. But like, he was the face of the league, 2016 before he even had established himself as a winner. Even if he only won one ring, that doesn't necessarily make you the face of the league winning one ring. It definitely helps, but he was established himself as an influencing player. We'd never seen anyone shoot the ball like that. And that's what made him the face of the league because he changed the game, the way the game was played. Anthony Edwards is a small athletic guard. We've seen a million of those. We've never seen a KD. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So he's
fair.
the face of the league because he takes it by storm. He's influencing other bigs and people, that like your future Karl Anthony Towns, your future ADs, guys who are not quite 7-footers but pretty close, and they have a good bag. They have like a good dribble package. They got like different things they can offer. They weren't able to do that without seeing what was possible with KD's play because we had never seen anyone with KD's build. That's why I put him as the face of the league, the influence.
Sure. No, and when you single it down to that, that's fair. I'll give you that in terms of the comp between him and Edwards. I can give you that because, like you mentioned, at that time we didn't see a guy like Kevin Durant. Arguably, we still haven't seen a guy like Kevin Durant at that point in time. Yeah. But with Anthony Edwards being a smaller guard, and like you said, it's become the norm around nowadays with the type of play style, especially. Yeah, I can give you that. I'll still stick with my answer, but I'm not mad at your take.
So you're doubling down?
I'm doubling down. Kobe for both answers.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I just don't see it, man. I don't see how he would be the face of the league. You got this guy who's 7 foot. Some people will say is 7 foot with shoes on. That's shooting the lights out. He's scoring on all three levels. He's a decent shot blocker.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That to me is the face of the league. Whereas, Kobe was great, but like he wasn't doing any. Again, we've seen Kobe before, have we not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to influence and stuff, we've never seen a KD or we've never seen a Wembanyama. Like, I would go so far to say Wembanyama is the face of the league. just because what he brings to the table physically, not necessarily with accolades, even though accolades does help.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd have to disagree with you on that, putting Wembanyama as the face of the league already.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think Anthony Edwards is ready to take on that mantle because although he's competitive, he hasn't really proven anything. And I know that's not fair to say Wembanyama when he hasn't either. But I mean, I don't know. He's a 6'4" guard, 6'3" guard. Like he doesn't strike me as someone who's going to change the game of basketball.
Hmm. Well, I will say, I think of the odds of Wembanyama versus Edwards, I definitely would give it to Wembanyama sooner, but I don't think they're there yet.
So what happens if Wembanyama wins Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year and is the block leader? Will be like the block leader for this year because he leads the league in blocks. Would he then be the face of the league?
I mean, not in my book, Dan. It's just too soon. I can't anoint him that
Mm.
soon. It's for the very same reason why I couldn't anoint LeBron in his first 3 or 4 seasons. It's too soon.
Mm.
For
Okay.
me,
Well, at
for me
least you're
personally.
consistent with those answers. I'll give
Yeah,
you that.
for me personally, I can't. You got to show me something. Like obviously, there's the dynamic plays, there's the potential, but I need to see tangible accomplishments that accompany this because I need more substance than just sizzle. I know I can see this. If I can throw on YouTube and see the highlights, that's great. But when I look at face of the league, I look at it this way. When we're saying face of the sport, that's like an entirety of the sport itself. When you look at face of
Yeah.
the league, or yeah, face of the league, now that's your representation to like a casual fan. So
Yeah.
if I were to single it down and go on highlights and show let's throw out someone random, right? I'll say my sister. She knows basketball. She does watch the games as much as I do at this point. But I'm just gonna use her as an example. If I were to sit her down and show highlights of like an Anthony Edwards or a Wembanyama, whoever, the next question is gonna be, oh, what have they won? And
Mm.
if I can't answer that, then they're gonna look at me like, so how are they the face if they haven't?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
And then I'd say that's valid. But if you look at a guy, and this is another sport, look at a guy like Messi. He didn't win a World Cup until his very last year. How can a guy possibly like that be the face of the league or the face of the sport and he hasn't won anything, but yet so many people respected him and endeared him? It's the same thing. I feel like when you transcend, stats and accolades with your influence, that's when you become the greatest. That's what makes me take Jordan over LeBron. Yes, statistically, I mean the 10 different defensive player of the years, the 10 scoring titles or however many it was, the All-Stars, the MVPs, the defensive player of the years. I think I already said that one, and championships. When you take all that, like statistically, yes, to me he's the most dominant and the greatest. But I mean, it was the aura, it was him, the influence of him using the fadeaway and the slashing and like everything is the way he had his style. To me, that is more influence than LeBron is because think about it, you could never be LeBron. He's 6'8" and he has everyone's best genes.
Yeah, literally. Literally. No, I can't speak to the messy stuff, bro. I won't even front. Like I'm Mexican, bro, but I don't watch soccer like that.
Oh
And that and
man,
that and that
Jose, you're not La Raza,
I
man.
know it
No, I'm
pains
just
me.
kidding.
You know
Not
it.
La Raza. We don't like Messi, anyways. He kicked the Mexican flag.
Yeah, that I that I remember. That I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
We team Ronaldo
with Team Ronaldo.
for sure.
All right. Hey, I'm gonna follow you. Hey, you are like Dan from Zacatecas at this point, bro.
I am Daniel de Zacatecas. For those who don't know, odio los negros porque lo único que hacen es robar.
You,
Just kidding.
no, you know, my mom didn't believe me when I said like Dan knows Spanish. Like he can speak Spanish. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. To the point where we went to that baby shower recently,
Yeah,
and
I
some
can, I can, but I can pero más o menos.
Dude, but that's pretty good. Like, that's better than some Mexicans I know, bro.
What can I say? I mean, let's talk about like when we're at the baby shower, dude. Like the outfit you had on, bro. Siempre me gusta tu selección.
See?
Like, man, like
See what?
it was nice, man. It's like it was looking clean, bro. Looking cold. What is it? Looking frío.
Look. But see, that's what I mean. Like, if you wouldn't have told me, like, that you didn't know Spanish, like you said más o menos, I would believe it. I'd believe you could speak Spanish. We were at the baby shower, and I don't know, I forgot who it was, but someone was speaking Spanish to us, and they were like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I said, "Yeah, he does too." And I point to you. I'm like, "Es de Zacatecas." Like, he speaks Spanish. Oh, really? Like, yeah, bro. Ask him a question.
Dude, you put me on the spot, made me nervous, bro. How do you say nervous in Spanish? Nervioso?
Yeah,
Nervioso? Yeah.
nervioso.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I was just a little anxious, bro. I get nervous around like groups of people, but I'm trying to get better with my Spanish, dude. I'm trying to get better. Like, I need you to talk to me in Spanish for the rest of this podcast. You think you could do that?
No, eso va a ser muy difícil para mí, porque mi español no es el más mejores. Es como usted dice, es más o menos. With me, I can speak. I understand it way better than I can speak it, and I can attest to that with anybody I speak Spanish with, like at work, for example, because
Yeah.
I get very like self-conscious about it, especially with a name like Jose. Like, if you don't know a decent amount of Spanish, I feel shame. Like, for me personally, like for those who don't know Spanish and they're Mexican, like, I'm not gonna call anybody out, but it's like, for me personally, I get a sense of shame. Like, uno tiene que saber cómo hablar español. Like, one has to know how to speak Spanish, especially like in our heritage.
Yeah.
So I understand when you said, when I put you on the spot, you kind of got nervous, because I'm like that. And I tell people all the time, like at work, I'm like, if I say something wrong in Spanish, I need you to correct me, because that's the only way
Yeah.
I'm going to get better. So I can hold a conversation, but it's not to my liking, you know?
Yeah. And speaking of conversation, what do you think about Brandon Aiyuk's conversation right now with the front office of San Francisco? Like, are they going to come to an agreement? Is he going to resign? What's up with that, man?
This is going to be a running conversation on the podcast, because I know we've talked about it for a couple instances now. He's gonna sign, dude. He's gonna stay with
Dude,
us.
he's not happy. He's not happy.
No. There's a difference between being not happy and just gauging, the interest of other people. There's nothing wrong, with a little tactician on the sense of his agent. That's why he pays his agent, right? Get him the best deals. That's all it is.
Yeah, but we call people who go and mess around with others is skonka. So he's being a skonka right now, and he's not gonna resign because he's not happy. Like, he didn't get the ball. He didn't get the huevos. So like,
Pelota, güey.
he didn't get it, man. So like, I mean, if I was Brandon Aiyuk, I'm not gonna lie, I would be. If I was Kittle, I would be upset. Like, why am I blocking every damn play? Can somebody please throw me a fade? Like, fuck. Like, I feel like at that point you're losing. You got to do anything to win, or you're not getting down the field. You're not able, like, incorporate your other weapons. So if I was Aiyuk, I would be upset because I think he's better than Debo. Damn fucking Debo. But, like, he gets overshadowed by everyone. Brandon Aiyuk is the least popular offensive weapon on the 49ers. Would you agree?
You said the least popular, or what do you mean by least popular? I need
Other than the
I need you to
fullback.
define that.
Out of your major weapons, what is everyone going to say? CMC,
Yes.
right? Brock Purdy,
Yes.
right? Brock has been very controversial this year. Not him personally, but talk around him. And then, of course, Debo. They literally have whole segments. Is Debo going to play in the Super Bowl? Is Debo ready for this and this? So, I mean, I feel like nobody was talking about Aiyuk. He's the forgotten, brother, so he's not happy. I think he doesn't come back to San Fran. He's done, bro. Like, since we're on the topic of Spanish, man, hasta luego. I don't think he's coming back, man.
I'm going on the record right now, Dan, and if I'm wrong, you have permission to clown me any chance you get. He's coming back.
He's not coming
He's
back,
coming
man.
back.
On the record, he's not coming back. He's not coming back like a dad going out for leche. So,
No.
telling you, man, he's not coming back, man. He's long gone. When he posted that thing right after the game, that's how you know, because he could have taken it down. That's the thing.
Hey, but
He
that's
had
he in the
time to
moment.
delete it.
That's he in the moment. I'm not gonna get mad for that. He gets he in the moment. What I will say, what's interesting is his conversation on Twitter with Mike Tomlin. You see that?
No, I didn't.
So he tweeted at Mike Tomlin, and it was something along the lines of they saying like we twins or like that we look alike or something. But he's basically stirring up the conversation that these two are linked, and people are taking that
Mm,
as him basically shooting his shot with the Steeler organization. Like, hey, if you want me, come get me. You know?
yeah, and I mean that plays right into Russell Wilson's hand. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, okay. Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers. He's
He's
definitely
not
not
going
coming
to
back to
the
San Fran.
Steelers, bro. There's been reports that he was going to go to the Jaguars, and that didn't happen. Like, he's sticking with us.
No, he's not, dude. Why would okay? What would be his incentive to? Because you guys are going back to the Super Bowl next year. Like, let's be real. Like, I want you to be 100% honest with me, all bias aside.
Yeah.
The Niners are not going to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So what would be the incentive for him to resign?
Get that
He
long-term
can't go back.
contract. He's going to get money, regardless of where he goes. He's going to get money because in order to keep him, we're going to have to give him money. And if he wants
Yeah, but
money,
you're not. You're not going to.
we're
That's the thing.
gonna
The
keep
the
him. Bro.
49ers have so many weapons. They
We
have too many people to pay.
nah, I
So
disagree. Because we've made room in the cap. We literally had to get rid of Eric Armstead, our defensive tackle. We made up.
is Brock Purdy still on his rookie year
Hell
contract?
yeah, he's not getting paid more than his backup or the third string. Those two guys are making more than Brock. We cleared
But
up.
when does his contract go up?
So he was drafted in 2022. So it would go up in like 2026, 2025
Oh, okay,
maybe.
so you still got some time, but I was about to say you guys might end up like in the
Nah,
Dodgers situation where
no,
you paying niggas money that you don't have.
no. We're chilling. And Kittle, George Kittle, Fred Warner, they restructured their deals. That opened up more cap. Last time I checked, we had at least 10 million in the cap just for this season alone. Not to mention, the ongoing other seasons. So we're
Yeah,
opening up. It's taking us time, but we are opening up cap, which is why I have no doubt in my mind he's not going nowhere. He's sticking with San Francisco for at least another 3 to 4 years.
for your sake, I hope so. Because if you don't have Ayuk, Debo's small ass is getting clamped. Like, I don't see him being effective
Hey,
with him being the only out wide.
I love Ayuk. He had a great season, and I say a great regular season. But we got 11 draft picks. One of them's got to hit if it's a receiver, right? At least one of them.
Right, right.
And
But it's going to be a decent. If it hits, it's going to be decent. It's not going to be a Debo
no,
or an Ayuk.
but like I said, we don't need him to be a Brandon Aiyuk or a Debo. Will it hurt in terms of productivity? Absolutely. But you said it yourself. We got an embarrassment of riches, baby. We got CMC, we got Debo, we got Kittle, we got Juszczyk. I'm not saying he has to
Yeah.
beat Brandon Aiyuk. It would be great to keep Brandon Aiyuk, and if not, maybe replicate that with another receiver. But it's not the end all be all, you know.
I can live with that. I can live with that take. It isn't the end all be all. But yeah, I can get with that. But we'll have to take a vote in the comments, guys. Do you think Brandon Ayuk is coming back to the 49ers? And if not, why? If so, why?
Not even if so, why he is.
He's not. He's not. There's no incentive for him to come back. I'm just keeping it real. If I was an upset player, right, and I make a tweet out of anger, I'm gonna delete that tweet right after. And it was on Instagram too. Instagram's more permanent than Twitter, in my opinion.
Really?
And he posted it. He didn't take it down. He stood on it with all his, throughout the hours of people reposting it on social media and news. And he hasn't come out to decline any of the trade rumors or any of the rumors of him leaving. that to me just shows the level of his unhappiness, is that he doesn't even feel a sense of having to say like, hey, I want to stay in San Fran.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Being in the generation that we are, right? Being in
Yeah.
the age of technology and social media, we've all posted something that we regretted. And the fact is,
Yeah.
maybe we didn't take it down. Why? Because, like you said, the internet's forever. So even if he took it down, it still would have been up. People are going to share. People are going to repost.
Mm.
So it's like at that point, if he takes it down, optic wise, it looks somewhat interesting if he takes it down, because now he's recognizing maybe a level of regret. But he's doubling down on it because he wants that money. And I can't get mad at that. I feel like he's earned that money. But again, going back to it, we've all posted things we regret. Me included. I've said some things. Maybe a picture that wasn't flattering, that I didn't like. But the internet's forever at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
Hey, Dan.
I'll go with that.
On that note, just because I'm afraid if we keep going any further, I might start going down a rabbit hole and like things are going to start coming true. And especially if this podcast uploads and something happens with Brandon Aiyuk, bro, I don't know. But I'm very confident.
I'm so happy.
But I'm very confident. I'm like 98% confident. You know?
No, I mean, the other 2%. I'm hoping that
the only 2%
it works out in my favor.
The only 2% I care about is in the milk in my cup. That's the only 2% that matters to me, bro. On that note, Dan, I want to thank you, bro, for being on the podcast as always. I love having you on the podcast as a way to kind of refresh in the conversation in regards to sports, because I know our sports talk is something I always look forward to, because like I said, it gives me a contrasting opinion and a different perspective, especially in the land of the NFL and the 49ers specifically. So I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on here, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, bro. If you guys like this episode, make sure to subscribe, like, share with your friends. Go ahead and comment down below what you think on the status of the San Francisco 49ers, namely Brandon Aiyuk. And again, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the J Area Podcast. We will catch you guys next week with another episode.
See you mañana.